again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Alumni Chats, a weekly podcast featuring alumni from the Department of Broadcasting and Journalism here at Western Illinois University. My name is Buzz Hoon, and I'm the host of the podcast. Today, we're talking with Mike Nobler, class of 2001. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Buzz. Great to be here. I'm really excited about this.
So let's get into life update. Where are you? Obviously, you've got some apparel on that might give some clues, but tell us what you're doing and where you are.
So I'm the video director at the Miami Dolphins. I'm down here in Fort Lauderdale now, been down here for going into season number 7. And what I do is I'm in charge of a department. There's 5 of us in the department, and we handle all the coaching video. So we handle all the opponent scouting video for the Dolphins, all the self-scout video, all the college video that all of our players and staff watch, all goes through our office.
So now it's not easy to end up at that particular spot. So we're going to kind of rewind a little bit, talk about how you got started into things. And we're going to start all the way back to your roots in Lake Villa. And you and I were talking before we actually started the podcast about how you grew up listening to radio. So tell us a little bit about your interest in general in broadcasting.
Yeah, for sure. So I listened to a lot of radio when I was younger. That's where I did my, grade school and high school homework was at my desk in my bedroom. And I didn't really have a TV in my bedroom, but I did have a little red number blinking bedside alarm clock that had a little AM FM radio on it. And that's where I used to listen to, Harry Carey, Steve Stone, Pat Hughes doing Cubs games. I would listen to, all the Bulls games on the radio, Neil Funk and Harvey Catchings. And even during Chicago Bears games, my dad would always turn down the TV audio and he'd turn on Wayne Larrivee, Dick Butkus, and Hub Arkish. And that's where I listened to all my radio was sports games. And then I'd listen to music there was obviously no XM radio. There's no satellite, right? There's no YouTube. I didn't even have a CD, but I would listen to, John Records, Landecker doing the oldies, or I'd listen to the local pop stations and listen to these radio DJs. And I kind of thought like, man, this is what I want to do. I want to broadcast games. I want to be on the radio. I think this is great that I could be in this room 100 miles away or 500 miles away or on the other side of the coast. And I could sit in my bedroom and hear these guys talking to me. I thought it was very, very cool. And that's what I wanted to do.
So when you came to WIU in the 90s, and I remember, again, the opportunities that kind of opened up to you in terms of trying to find your way and what you wanted to do. Talk a little bit about your memories of what you were involved with and how you got involved.
Sure. So I got to Western. I knew I wanted to be, when I visited Western, I think we probably toured Saley, toured the campus, and I thought, hey, this is what I want to do. Whatever. This is what I want to go do. So I got to Western. I kind of really wasn't sure of like how this all works. Like, I want to be on the radio. Do I just walk into a radio studio? Do I got to learn about what buttons to press? How do I talk on all this stuff? And I didn't really understand how it all worked because I didn't have a lot of experience with it. And, so really quickly, we learned, my first class was a communications class. So we started to learn a little bit about it. And right away, like we were talking beforehand, in the basement of Henninger Hall was a radio station, WHEN, and it was available for students to use to broadcast to the local Channel 4 in Henninger and Bayless Hall, where kids could have a radio program and play music and talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. And it was, like I told you before, I walked into that thing and thought it was the coolest place. And it was just this little basement radio studio. And it was great. And then just obviously working my way through the class and seeing the different types of broadcasting from and editing and linear and non-linear editing and, in front of the camera, behind the camera. And I could, have a radio station. I could be a music director. I could be producing an event. I could be directing an event. And just all these things that I didn't even really knew were tied to broadcasting. And it was great because it was day one. I was able to sit in a radio booth and have a little radio show. And I thought it was fantastic.
Early on also, I think you were probably one of the first, in my memory at least, that really made a connection with the athletic program, specifically the football program, and started working. And how did you get involved? And was that with Coach Ball and then later with Coach Patterson? Talk a little bit about how you got involved working for football.
Sure. So I apologize if I'm going to be long-winded, but I love telling this story because it's so out there and it's so how in the world this worked out. And I remember everybody's name because I can't thank them enough. But so it started off, I was paired in my Henninger Hall room 914 with my roommate, and I didn't know him. He was from the Quad Cities, Bettendorf. And it was that first weekend where you're dropped off on Thursday. And then I think that next day, that Friday night, there was a couple of us went out on Friday night to walk around campus and just see kind of what was going on at night. And we show up and my roommate, his name was Matt, introduced me to a guy named Garrick with a G. And he said, "Hey, this is one of my high school friends, Garrick." And so I started talking to Garrick because I didn't know too many people at the time. And I started talking to Garrick, and Matt introduced me as, "This is my roommate. This is Garrick. Garrick actually helps out the WIU football team." And I was like, "Oh, really? Like, what do you do for the football team?" And he said, "Well, I'm kind of a student manager. I drag the pads out each day. I videotape practice. I help with the water. I just a extra set of hands there." And I remember telling him, like, "Man, that sounds fantastic. If there's ever any chance that another one of those spots opens up or you need help, please let me know, because I'd love to do that. I would love to be involved with the football team if I could." So then, that's it. I don't think much of it other than we had an introduction. Well, sure enough, I wake up Monday, first day of class. I have a 9 a.m. communications class in Saley Hall, second floor. Walk over there. I sit down. We don't know too many people in class, obviously. I sit down, and who's sitting directly in front of me but Garrick? And he turns around and he's like, "Mike, right?" And I said, "Garrick, right?" And then we hit off a friendship from there. And then from that point on, I remember he told me in the spring of that next semester, "Hey, the season's over. One of the guys who helped us out just graduated. There's a spot here if you'd like to do it." And that's how I got started. So he called me in and went and met Coach Ball. And then for the next 3 years, I helped out the football team.
Wow, that's awesome. Because like I said, I think we have, since your beginning, we have had this tradition where they have reached out to many of our students, which is a great opportunity and one that I don't think we ever envisioned. We did realize, I think back at that period of time, the importance of video and how it was going to assist in what they were doing on a, everyday basis.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, so here at the Dolphins and at Western, it is a humongous part of what they do. Like, that's 80% of what the coaches do is related to watching video, watching film, editing video a specific way for them. And then now it's exploded into the whole post-production side of things, creating content. Teams are creating content for, their fans, their recruits, to just be a part of the program, see content every single day. So it is exploded in the last, 10 years in terms of how people can access video and be a part of, whether it's the Dolphins or WIU.
What are your memories what do you still hold to be really fond memories of your time with the football team?
Well, for one, it was just those guys were larger than life people. Like I got to the university, and I'm going to throw some names out there. And I know we mentioned one ahead of time. My freshman year, when I wasn't helping out the team, there were guys on the team, the name of Cyron Brown. There was Jeff Hecklinski, Aaron Stecker, James Milton. I mean, these were nationally recognized, even some of them national award winner dudes that I would read about in the Chicago Tribune. And these were guys who were getting drafted and they were going to go play in the NFL. And I'm like, wow, these guys are here. Like, I'm passing these guys while walking to the Union. Like, this is very, very cool. These larger than life personalities. Like, how in the world can I get involved with that? Like, how could I be even just a small part of it? And that's how it worked out. So the memories were just being a part of that. We were really good with Coach Ball and Coach Patterson's first couple of years, going to the playoffs and being successful. So I thought that was great. The friendships that one of my classmates on the team is Mike Cyprus, who, graduated with, and he played in the NFL for, over 10 years. And I remember doing projects with him in Saley Hall, like working on stuff with this guy who went on to play in the NFL and other guys, the same way. And so it was very cool to be, affiliated somehow with these guys.
And that, just to let you know, because you haven't been back to campus, but we have a picture of you up on our floor. And we also have a smaller picture of you and Mike together at an actual NFL game where you must have been talking with him before the game.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So it's just an awesome sort of side note for our students as they walk by, and inspires them, encourages them along the way.
Very cool.
So when you graduated, and then, as you started to build your record of accomplishments and get your foot inside the door into what you're currently doing, I'm sure that there was a lot of difficulty. I think you started out as an intern for the Rams. Is that right? And then how did you find your way around the Midwest?
So I think what it is, and I tell this to a lot of people who ask, it's all about an opportunity. There's got to be an opportunity there, obviously, is the biggest key. And getting your foot in the door is that initial position to start building relationships and start forming, a positive relationships with people, because ultimately that's what helps you be able to move on. So, and the way that worked out for me is helping out Coach Patterson. The St. Louis Rams at the time had training camp at Western Illinois University. So one summer, it was probably mid to late July, I'm sitting at home in Lake Villa for summer break, and I get a call from Coach Patterson, and he says, "Hey, the St. Louis Rams need some help with training camp. One of their video guys, one of their camera operators, decided he wasn't going to come back for the season. So they're in a pinch right now, and they want to know if you can come out." And they called me and said, "Can we borrow one of your guys?" And he said, "Yeah, I got the guy for you." So he called me and said, when can you be there? I said, "Coach, it's however long the drive is, I'll be there." So that next day I showed up and I was helping the St. Louis Rams. And from that point, like, the reason I think I know the reason is I built a relationship with Coach Patterson. I did good work for him, and he was able to say, if I didn't do good work for him and he didn't think I would do a good job for the Rams, he would have said, "Yeah, I don't think we got anybody for you guys. I apologize, but there's nobody here who could do that." And he said, but he made the call, and built up a good rapport with him and WIU football, that they said, "Yeah, I think you should go to St. Louis." So I worked with the Rams for a little bit. And then after I graduated, I helped them out again. I think I graduated on May 5th. At May 6th, I was at their facility, helping them out for their off-season program stuff. And then I helped them out that next fall. And then my internship was up. And I actually, same thing. I went home. I became a substitute teacher. Thought I was going to be out of the sports business. I actually worked for a week at a medical supply company selling pharmaceuticals. And then, a guy I worked with at the St. Louis Rams, my boss, called somebody at the University of Illinois who had a position open. And I went down for an interview and got the job. And then at that point, you just keep meeting new people and doing a good job at your previous stop. And when another opportunity opens up, you have a good rapport and people to call for you. And so after Illinois, I went to the University of Oklahoma and spent 4 years at the University of Oklahoma. And then obviously from there moved on and on. And Oklahoma was a fantastic spot too. And that's what helped me get to, just keep trying to work really hard and build up great relationships with people where I'm at. And then those are the people who vouch for you and make phone calls for you to help get you to the next step.
Yeah, two things about that story that really stand out to me is that, first of all, I totally agree. When you say work ethic and you've got to be able to prove yourself when you get that opportunity. The other thing is about the relationships, and Coach Patterson was that kind of person that would put others out there and think about others in so many ways like that. He helped a number of our students, and I always think about and appreciate that he was willing to do that for you, because you're right. It is about getting to know people and allowing for networks to develop.
Oh, for sure. And I've talked to Coach Patterson, not real recently, but I was able, like a while ago, thank him for that, and able to let him know that, I appreciate it. And funny story is the Kansas City Chiefs practiced here at our facility for the Super Bowl. And Coach Ball is a member of the Kansas City Chiefs staff. And I told the guy, I have 2 Western Illinois helmets in my office. I have a team photo from my first team when I helped out with Western. And I told one of the guys there, like, I'd love to meet Coach or see Coach Ball again. And Coach Ball came in my office, and, he of course remembered me. And, we were laughing about the times, and I said, look up there, look at these helmets, look at the team photo. And he was like, this is so great to see all this stuff here. So it was very cool to meet with Coach Ball again and talk about 20 years ago.
Yeah. Another outstanding individual. And I'm
Yes.
glad I got to know both of them.
Yes. Yes.
So Mike, I guess the interesting question is always, how did you end up with the Dolphins? Because, that's, an idealistic sort of achievement.
Mm-hmm. So again, like I said, I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for relationships. I'm not, this has nothing to do with, my education level or, wherever I went to school or I did this. I got this job strictly, and I totally recognize that, strictly off of, the relationships that I built and the work ethic that I showed previous people. So the way it worked out is once I left the University of Oklahoma, I took 2 years away from team sports, and I worked at our editing company that we use for team video called Exos Digital. So I worked for Exos for a couple years, helping out as a support rep. I travel around the country, and I'd help teams do various things, installs, trainings, 911 emergency calls, whatever it was. And at Western or at Exos, I built a relationship with a couple people there that were involved with NFL teams, that helped on our side, that were supporting NFL teams. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I did my job to the best of my ability, worked really hard. Fast forward a little bit, after 2 years, I worked at the University of Nebraska for 6 seasons with Coach Pelini there. Unfortunately, in December of 2014, I lost my job there because they made some staff changes. And I kind of thought, man, I'm out of it. I don't know what I'm going to go do. This was a great job at Nebraska. Where do I go from here? And I get a call from a gentleman. And in the meantime, I'm struggling really hard. I'm sending out resumes to every NFL team, every college team. I'm talking to everyone I can. And, I'm starting to think, wow, this isn't going to work out. And I get a call from somebody, and he goes, hey, there's a job open at Miami. Is this something you're interested in? And I was, yeah, of course I'm interested in. Are you kidding me? The video director for the Dolphins? And he goes, okay, I'm going to have you. And it was one of the guys that I had a relationship with from my time at Exos. And he said, all right, I'm going to put you in touch with somebody there. So I call a guy I've never met who is friends with our former executive VP, Mike Tannenbaum. So I talked to a guy I've never met. And this guy says, well, you got a great recommendation from this guy that I know at Exos, talk very highly of you. I'm going to talk to you for 5 to 10 minutes. And after that 5 to 10 minute phone call, he was like, yeah, I think you're the guy for this job. I didn't even talk to anybody from the Miami Dolphins. I used my relationship with somebody, and I talked to another person who had a relationship with somebody with the Miami Dolphins. And based on that, that got me the job here. So it was strictly just off of what I've done in the past and my relationships that got me an opportunity to speak with somebody. And that's that's usually what I tell people who are asking me, how in the world did you get with the Dolphins? Is, you know what, it wasn't anything specific about my knowledge on technology or my knowledge. It was, I proved myself at other spots, and they knew I would be a good fit here, and that's kind of how it worked out.
When you mentioned the knowledge of technology, how things have, even within your lifetime, has changed in terms of how we went from basically tape-based recording everything to now it's all digital and storage based. So, how's your job changed, and what kind of changes did you even see within the last year?
Yeah. So it started off when I was helping WIU. We were recording on 2 VHS cameras, handheld cameras, that would sit on your shoulder, but they had a VHS tape in them, so it was more consumer based VHS cameras. We could barely even edit them because, at Western, we just didn't have the means at the Western Illinois football team to be able to do a lot of this stuff. So I remember, making copies of tapes and recording over. A coach may have a recording of a game or a practice that he wanted on a tape sitting on his desk, and I'd accidentally grab that tape and I'd record over it with something else, and there was no way to get it back. And so it was that constant struggle of, how do we record over these tapes? And then I look at it now where, my cell phone or this iPad that I'm talking to you on has almost a terabyte of storage on it. And compared to what we were doing before, it just blows me away. And the way it's changed a lot is the coaches will always adapt to what the technology is. But as the technology changes, the demand, you would think the demand would, like, whew, okay, now I can record on my iPhone and just give them my iPhone and we're good to go. But no, it's, now we need to do more. We need more camera angles. We need more computers. We need to look at more video. We need it faster. I need it right now. Now our coaches are watching the video on the bus after the game is over, as compared to, they wouldn't even be able to start watching our video until we got back Sunday morning or Monday morning, depending on college or pro. So as it's changing, it's making things easier to get your job done. But because of that, the demand grows, and now we're satisfying the need. So it's just growing in terms of, now the coaches want more.
Of course they do.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. That's how it works.
So I always have wondered this because, I've spent long days shooting football or any other sporting event. And at the end of the day, after I get home, after spending, practically 12 hours doing a game here at WIU, I would go home and turn on a football game.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, your occupation is built around shooting football. Do you, when you want to watch something, do you watch football for the fun of it?
I do. Yeah, I do. I love the sport. I love seeing, everything that's going on. And I do love it. I love, obviously I'll watch the Super Bowl. There'll be a little bit of jealousy there that I would love to be in that game. We lost to the Buffalo Bills at the end of the year to knock us out of the playoffs. But sure enough, I was back the next weekend watching all those games. I love the games. And, in our business, my counterparts, we have a really, really tight group of guys. We all know each other. We all work together. It's kind of a unique thing about the video guys in football is we're the only two guys on the team that sit next to each other during the game. It's not like our head coach, Coach Flores, and, Bill Belichick, when we played the Patriots, sit next to each other and just chat throughout the game. But I'm standing there next to the New England Patriots video guy, and we're shooting the game 6 feet apart. And we're chatting the whole time. I know about him. He knows about me. So we become friends with these guys. So I get a little invested in, former coaches that I work with going to other places, former players that I have relationships going to other places. So there's usually a little bit more of a personal interest in the games too. But yes, my relaxation is on Sunday or even Saturday college football is watching the football games. So yes, I do the same thing.
Yeah. Can never get enough of it.
No, for sure. For sure.
So as we kind of wrap up here, Mike, I'm wondering, a lot of students would love to have a job where they are, again, involved with sports in some capacity, maybe, doing some similar type of activities. What kind of recommendations do you have for today's student?
So what I would tell people is there's a lot of jobs inside an organization. Forget football, but inside of an organization, there's the whole business side of things. Yeah. Marketing, ticket sales, and then you come even on the football operations side of things. There's public relations. There's the equipment room. There's the training room. There's the production side of things. There's the scoreboard side, game presentation side of things. There's coaching video. There's a ton of stuff. What I would tell people is, in order to you got to get involved somehow. If you want to work for the Miami Dolphins and you want to be the video director, or you want to be the PR director, or you want to be the general manager or the head coach, you're not going to walk in the door as the head coach. Coach Flores, our head coach, started off a very low level personnel intern, working in personnel, scouting, and doing probably some very low level work that 20 years ago, if you asked him, he said, there's no chance I'm going to be, I'm filing names in a file cabinet. Like no, I'm not going to do it. But you have to start somewhere. So wherever you are, there's got to be a team somewhere, whether it's a minor league baseball team, a minor league hockey team, a minor league football team, or wherever it is, you got to get involved and go to those places. I said, I always tell people it's very difficult. If I have a job that opens here, I'm going to get 100 resumes, and they're resumes to me. Sure, they're important, but what I've had people do is, and what I always recommend is, you need to start forming some relationships, even if you're not in the organization. Call people that that have the position that you have. Call them, find out about them, know about them. Know that, like, if somebody called me on the phone and said, hey, Mike, I'm a high school senior at, Plantation High School up the road here in Plantation, Florida. I kind of want to be involved in football. Can you tell me how you got where you are? And like, yes, here's what I'd recommend to you. And then I'm going to come back to you in 2 to 3 years or whatever it is. Like, people call me. I am much more likely to talk to those people or invite them in. People, we just were at the Senior Bowl, and I talked to kids at South Alabama, and they're like, how do we get involved? And I said, well, where do you guys live? Like, oh, well, I live near Atlanta, or I live here. And I say, there's a football team in Atlanta. Go talk to the video director in Atlanta, learn about him, meet him, go take him out for a cup of coffee and talk with him for an hour. Then you start building relationships. I think is, like I said before, it's a relationship business, and you got to have relationships to get into this. So learn about and talk to people that have the job that you want. Even if it's the general manager, take a chance at an email and send them a note and just say you just want to talk and learn about it, because a lot more people are willing to talk than you would think.
And I've always appreciated that whenever I've had a student that might be interested in doing something along the lines of what you're doing, you've always been willing to, say, send me their email contact and I will get in touch with them. And I think that means a lot to them, to think that somebody that's out there that graduated 20 years ago is still willing to help out and be a mentor in that way.
Yeah. And anyone who's listening to this, who even speaks to you, Buzz, who may not have my is please, like, reach out. I'd love to just give advice. Again, we talk further about how I got where I am and all that. And it's not, it's not an unlikely story that can happen to other people doing the same thing. You work hard at one spot at the WIU football team or at the rec center, and you get a recommendation somewhere, and all of a sudden you're at a spot you never thought you'd be, because whatever job somebody gave you, even if it's a terrible job, if somebody says, hey, I need you to file these at the rec center, you got to be like, you know what? There's nobody who's going to file these papers as good as I am. Like, I'm going to be the best paper filer that this place has ever seen. And then all of a sudden now you got a recommendation from somebody to do something bigger and better. And it just started by, working hard and having some relationships.
Well, Mike, it's been great catching up with you. I tell you, we probably could go for another half an hour, just talked about WIU things. We were talking beforehand, and it really just, it shows to me again how blessed I have been to have students like you that have been on our campus. We are very proud of your accomplishments, and we're very thankful of your willingness to speak to our students.
No problem, Buzz. I'm glad to do it, and do it again next week if you needed me to. I love doing it, and everywhere I've been, I got my Western Illinois helmet is in my office, and it's usually one of the first things people see because it's the first one by the door. So Western's usually with me wherever I go. So I appreciate you giving me this opportunity, and this was great.
Well, thanks again for joining us. Remember, those that are watching, to join me again next week when I'll have another alumnus from Western Illinois University. Until then, stay safe, take care, and God bless.